Hi to everyone, my name is Filippo Martinoni, and in this tutorial I will present you the application Create Random Scenario. That is an application that offers, so given some parameters, to put randomly the robot on the field. This can be really comfortable if we are in the situation where we have to test a new algorithm and we don't want to change manually the .ros file, ros2 file on the scene folder, but we can just start the program and let the program that does the work for us. So where can you find the program? So if you go under excuse me, where you have the Z-Knipser folder, you can open it and you can find here Create Random Scenario. So the structure is done like that. So we have the readme, where I just say to look this video in order to set the configuration right. We have the configuration file, the config.cfg. Here we can put all the parameter that we will need for the application. So we have the path to the file where we want to change the file. In this case is from RoboCup, so from Z-Knipers I go in config and in scene, and then I tell, okay, what is the name of the file. Please be careful that once that you start the program, this file will be deleted and replaced by the new one. So if you have a configuration that you want to keep in order to make some future tests, save it under another name. Else it will be deleted and you cannot do anything in order to save it. Then you can choose which team to move, so either our team or the opponent team or the ball, so which one should be put randomly on the field. You can choose in which boundary. To make an example, let's say that so maybe, since from the beginning to the game normally we have our team on this side and the opponent team on this side, you want to make such that our team will just be shrink in this area and cannot go also be placed here. This is what you decide here. So you have the minimum x, the maximum x, the minimum of y, the maximum of y, and the same for the rotation. Please be aware that you cannot put that a minimum value is bigger than a maximum value, else the program will not work. But this should be quite clear. The degree, so the angle of the robot for our team, since we should look in this direction and we have the positive theta defined like that. So if you put that you want 0 degree, the robot will look in this direction. For the opponent on the other side, if you want the opponent look in this direction, you have to put that the angle is 180 degree. The same for the ball, so here we don't have a rotation, but we can put in which range do we want to place the ball, because maybe we would like to have also the ball that is not placed in the middle but random somewhere. What you can also have is that if you want that, for example, the ball should be stay in the middle, so you can either have on the scene file that the ball is already placed in the middle and then set this flag to false, or else you can put here a 0. What does it mean? This means that if the minimum is equal to the maximum for one direction, so the robot will take this angle. For example, if you want that all our robot have their angle is 0, we can just write here 0 and 0 here, so in these two places, and then the robot will automatically have the value for the rotation 0. What is also very important to say is that in order to work properly, this program need to have the following structure that I show you. So if you go under config scene, we need absolutely to have this configuration. So in order for every robot we should have, so for the body, of course, we have to define the name and the role. So this is, we always have to do that. What we can avoid is not to put a translation or a rotation or the color. So this normal ways is something that we can put or not. At least for the rotation and the color, I'm sure. About the translation, I don't know. However, in order to work properly, this program need these three information. So if, for example, you want to let's take this one robot, and you want to use this create random scenario with this file. Here, for example, you see you have translation, you have the color, but it means the rotation. So you have first to go here, insert the rotation as is written here. So just use this pass.rows2 as example. Put them here, and then start create random scenario. I really advise you to do that before, because else it will delete some line and it will make some chaos. So maybe I can also advise you always to start with this file pass.rows, and then modify this file. It is also because here we have some distance, and of course in the program this distance are given as a, so we have for example this string, and then we give this distance as a tab, but size the tab can be changed here. So if you use this configuration, you will always get the same structure. If you use another one, maybe could change something. This is about the configuration file. Now under Z-Knipser create random scenario, under debug we have the application. Okay, this file structure of this stuff is the standard of Eclipse. I leave it since, as I introduced in the initial video, so we have we use Eclipse, so I found comfortable that we leave it for the Eclipse use. So we have source, where we have all our code file. We have debug, where actually this is just from Eclipse, where we have the executable, and then we have application. What does it mean, the application? The application is a file.desktop that will offer us to work with just if we double click on it. So in this way we don't have to, so it could be also the same if you go on the executable and then we execute it from the terminal, but here we have some advantage. Of course, when you will open that, you will not get this icon, you will get an icon like file text. This is because it's not configured. So now I will explain you how to do that. So first of all, go where you have in the application folder, then press Ctrl L. In this way we get the path to this folder, then we can copy it, open a terminal, go to the path that we copied before, so just paste this path. Then as you can see, I hope is enough big. As you can see, if we do ls now, we have this create random scenario.desktop. This is our application, and then the icon. Now what you have to do is get it create random scenario.desktop. Now in Gedit it will open this, and this is a little bit like what we did for the Eclipse installation. So what you have to set is where to find the executable, where to find the path, and where to find the icon. So the executable in my case is in the path to RoboCup, then Z-Knipser, then we have this create random scenario, this debug, and so on. So to be honest, this is the wrong one, so this would be of something other. So as I say, this should be the path, Okay, so I also have to change the path. So as you can see, I have the executable that is here. So is in blah blah blah, create random scenario, debug, create random scenario. We have the path. So what does it mean, the path? The path is the where is the workspace of the application. And since we are going to read this file, we have to set the path to this folder, so to this place. So we can copy it and paste it here, right? And then we have where to find the icon. So this is just in our case here under application icon. Of course you can change the image in whatever you want. We can save it and close. Now if you go under application, we get this create random scenario. So what is the advantage of that? The advantage is that we can take it and move it here. Now we can just start it from here. If I would have done a fail, so if I would have done, for example, sorry, let's say here where there is the executable, I would have done this error, so I would have put something that doesn't exist. What would happen? So if I close, so if I go now under the folder, okay, it doesn't change anything. However, the program would not work. So if I double click on it, it will say me there is an error launching the application. Why that? Because we tell him so run an executable that doesn't exist. So be aware of that. So if you make it this wrong, it will not launch the file. If you make this wrong, it will not find the icon. If you make this wrong, the program will just don't work because it's not able to find the configuration file. Now let's come to the interesting part of that. So just start Eclipse so that I can show you how actually the program works. So let's say that we run a scenario. In this case I will run the past one. We don't need this. Okay, so now we have this scenario. Okay, we have our player are also in the other field, and the player on the other field are in their field part. So now what happens if you run create random scenario? We just click on it, it will open a terminal. When it say read all parameters correctly and position and orientation of our robot new random initialize, this doesn't mean that you set properly the parameter. So this means that at every place where the program should find a parameter, you put something. But this doesn't mean that it's actually right. For example, if rather than true you make a spell failure, it will give you an error, but it will just set, for example, so let's say that rather than true, so wait, let's make like that first. Let's put these two to false, just to make not too much stuff all together. Okay, now I'm saying, okay, so the minimum x should be not really the end of the field where we have the goalpost, but yeah, maybe 10 centimeter more of that. We say that the maximum x that we can reach is the middle line. We want to take all the field in y direction, so this is not exactly the boundary, but enough. And the rotation should be between -20 and 20 degrees. So we can save this file. Now we have SimRobot. We click on create random scenario. It tells us blah blah blah, I did all whatever I did. So Ctrl C, you can close it. Now if you open once more the path, as you can see, all our player when move randomly inside the boundary that we give to the program. Okay, now remember this configuration. If now on the configuration file I will write it, let's say I'm quite fast, so I made this misspell and I save it. Now what happened? Now it happened that if I run the program, so I say create random scenario go, it will say okay, I can read all the parameter, but since the true is not known, what will happen as the true actually, so that this parameter that I set here, since is written wrong, it will be considered by default as false and not as true. So if you see something that it shouldn't happen, control that you write actually all right. So this means yeah. So now let's say that we, as you can see now, since this is written correctly, so if we run create random scenario, we close, we go here, and we open this once more. So this is something that can happen. It doesn't mean it is not a problem of create random scenario. This is something that just happens sometime. I don't know exactly why. I guess because for the program should be normal. Let's say that if you open for the second time the same application, the order of the different stuff on the field should be the same, so their position. But if it notices that there is something that doesn't match the previous configuration, then it will crash. But this is just my supposition. I'm not sure that it's like that. So if it crashes, just reopen once more and so on. Now let's say that we want to change something other. Let's say that we want to set, for example, also the opponent in another way. So here I set the opponent position that should be placed randomly in this field. So let's run create random scenario. Let's close this and reload the pass. As you can see, it crashed. You see the error. I have no idea what does it mean. So sorry for this small interruption. I got what was the problem. As you can see, this is the image of before. Now I changed the scene for the bug. We have these two robots. And what is the problem is that they start in such a way that one robot, so the arm of the behind robot, is inside the forward robot, and this of course it doesn't make any sense. So I guess there is something in the simulator that say since the robot are considered as rigid body, that say that one robot cannot go through another robot. So I guess this is the problem, because I try it with other configurations. So I will show you. For example, this is our actual configuration. Let's say that we call this create random scenario with open it once more. So now we should have a difference in both field, and as you can see here, so now they are near one another, but if we look here, they are not inside one another, and therefore I guess, so I guess, because I'm not sure, but in this case it doesn't crash, because as you can see, we don't have one robot that is inside the other one. And what is important is that actually the robot were placed at the right point. Of course, the program, so if we have two robots that are too close to another, so they can fall down, and the program doesn't check if something like that can happen. So it doesn't check that the robot should have a minimum distance between them. So if you use this create random scenario and you get that there is something that doesn't work, so for example, as before, that the program continues to crash, so the sim robot doesn't work, or does as soon as they start, the two robots, since they are too close to another, they fall down. So you can just press on it, since we are creating a random scenario, so we don't care to the position. So also about the robot number, for example, here we have this is one of these two is robot 1, the other is 2, we have the 3, the 4, the 5, but if you run it once more, of course, so the wall, so here probably, let's have a look now. Ah no, okay. As I say, sometimes so the sim robot just crash, but this can happen with actually with all the configuration. So with all the file is not a problem of the file itself, but it's a problem of sim robot. Maybe it could also be, so I didn't talk about that, but actually when I start the program, because now I'm not on my branch, but I'm in the general one, and there is friends of mine who work on the role assignment, and I guess, but I'm not sure, I should speak with her. So we have a configuration file where there are defined the role, okay, like all this static and blah blah blah, but in the pass .rostro I use the player, SimPass player and SimDummy that are not included in this configuration file. So this could also be a problem, but I cannot be sure since I don't know exactly what how is the structure of her work. This is actually all what you should know in order to use create random scenario. I will explain in the next tutorial how is the structure of these programs, so that if you want to change something you can find easily where to do that. Thank you for your attention.